the more we simplify language, the better our message will be received, because it's not that people aren't smart and can't figure it out. It's that in our 24 hours a day, we are so inundated with messages that we tune out the things that we don't think are relevant to us. So if it takes just even an extra millisecond to determine if it's relevant to us, we don't pay attention. There's another great tool. It's called the Flesch Kincaid readability score. You can take anything you write and copy and paste it into a Google Doc, and then under tools, choose the Flesch Kincaid score, and it'll tell you at what level is your writing. You want it to be about a 7th grade level. That's what magazines and newspapers are written at.
Welcome to Mitlin Money Mindset, your weekly dose of inspiration and insights to ensure you enjoy each step of your journey. Whether you're saving for the future, planning your next big adventure, or simply looking to add more joy to your life, you've come to the right place. Now, let's dive in.
I'm Larry Sprung, your host for the Mitlin Money Mindset and founder and wealth advisor of Mitlin Financial. Today's guest is Samantha Russell, Chief Evangelist at FMG. Samantha is a leading voice in the realm of financial marketing and digital strategy. As the Chief Evangelist at FMG, she plays a pivotal role in helping financial advisors and firms harness the power of digital tools and marketing to grow their businesses and connect with clients in meaningful ways. With a background rich in marketing expertise and a passion for education, Samantha is dedicated to demystifying the complexities of digital marketing and making it accessible and actionable for financial professionals. Known for her insightful perspectives and innovative approaches, Samantha has been a driving force in transforming how financial services communicate and engage with their audiences. Her expertise spans content strategy, social media, branding, and lead generation, making her a sought-after speaker and thought leader in the industry. Join us as we explore Samantha's journey, gain insights into the latest trends and strategies in financial marketing, and learn how you too can leverage digital tools to enhance your business and financial growth. Well, we are super excited today to have Samantha Russell, Chief Evangelist at FMG. Welcome to the show, Samantha.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, it's amazing. And, one of the things that our listeners are truly enamored by is the journey, right? The entrepreneurial journey, how people get to where they are, what they're doing. So could you just share with our listeners a little bit, 10,000-foot view of how you ended up becoming the Chief Evangelist at FMG?
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, FMG is a digital marketing all-in-one platform for financial advisors, everything from websites to social media to email marketing. And my husband, late husband, Ryan Russell, and I actually started a company called 20 over 10 in 2014, and it was acquired by FMG in 2020. So that's sort of the connection between my background and how I got to FMG. And the way that that company started was Ryan really just saw a gap in the market in this space. He was a professor of design at Penn State University and was working with a lot of financial companies. And he had an OSJ client who asked him to build a website. He built this gorgeous website. And then when he created the Find an Advisor lookup tool for them to link all the individual advisors' websites, their websites, excuse my French, sucked. And so he said, there has to be a better way to improve this. And so he created 20 over 10. And for me, I came on as employee number 1 to do all of the marketing, the sales, really everything, support. And, we had no budget. And so I was really doing everything I could to really try these kind of grassroots guerrilla marketing tactics and building it in public as we went. And the advisors that I was connecting with, I would share in real time, hey, I'm writing a blog post and using these keyword tactics or this Google keyword tool, and you should try it. And so we were almost, I was sharing as I went, and people really, I think that resonated with them, that I was sharing really tactical, tangible things that they could implement. And so I was lucky that then my social media presence and our blog really took off, and we were really able to grow and scale the business successfully because of that.
Amazing. And then, I mean, was that really the impetus of you becoming a leading expert in the content space for advisors? Because I have to, you may not say it, but I'll say it. I think you're one of, if not the leading folks that people follow in terms of, content marketing. You're the go-to. Is
Oh,
that
thank you.
really what led you there?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so kind of you, by the way. I mean, I think for me, I had no choice. I remember meeting a mentor of mine, and one of our first conversations. This is back when I was actually doing fundraising and development for Penn State University, and I was saying something about, well, my goals for my career, and he said, well, are you sharing those what you hope to do with your career with the people around you? And I said, well, no. And he said, if you don't put it out there, no one will know. And it's the same thing now, right? If you don't tell people that you offer estate planning or that you can be the conduit between their CPA and them so they don't have to play point, they won't know. Don't make the person you're trying to reach do all that research. And so for me, nobody was going to know what 20 over 10 was because we were new to the industry. Nobody knew what we could do because they didn't even know who we were. So creating videos, creating blog posts that highlighted our expertise was really the way to get the word out. And notice I didn't just go and say, here's all the things we could do for you, because nobody really
Right.
cares. They instead, I was giving them tangible tactical tips that they could implement right away, and then they were saying, who is this person and where
Right.
does their expertise come from? So yeah, that building it in public and giving away that information for free was what allowed us to grow so quickly.
Yeah, well, let's talk about one of those things because I have a thank you for you because because your content's so simple to understand and execute, you had done something a while back about around Google verification, and that was a major help to us, especially Denise as she worked through the verification process for that. What tips do you have for other content creators, specifically business owners in a service industry around that, Google verification process?
Yeah, I mean, and one of the things to keep in mind it's really interesting is Google is still, the top player when it comes to search. We see a lot of people now, young people going to other platforms first. Like if they want to look up a restaurant or something, they might go to Instagram. But for services, Google's still dominant. And we are seeing more and more people, go to Chat GPT or Perplexity and ask for a list of financial advisors. But where are they pulling a lot of the data from? They're pulling it from the web, aka
Right.
places like all these different search engines. And Google verification really, really helps show that you are legitimate. So if you're trying to get Google verified, we can link maybe to the article that I think I shared with Denise that kind of walks you through the steps. But you are going to need be prepared. It does take time. So there's multiple steps involved, and that you often need to have proof to show who you are. So Google's not going to just take your word for it. They need to see proof of your business, sometimes your location. There's been instances someone told me they had to show their driver's license. So different elements that you need. But when somebody goes to do their research, having that little check mark saying this person is a legitimate business that's been verified by Google, that goes such a long way, especially when you're talking about a consumer handing over their life savings to a professional, right? We
Right.
all hear about these financial scams.
And how important is it to dovetail on that, in terms of Google reviews? Like how important is that? How much weight do those carry?
Well, the Google reviews are incredibly important for local search. So if someone's in, your hometown, like I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and they're searching financial advisor near me or top advisors in Cleveland, Ohio, those reviews are one of the key signals that Google uses to determine who to put. We all see that map and it shows you the businesses. And that's because a review to Google is saying other users have verified that this is a legitimate business because they're able to review it, they've interacted with it. And so even having reviews, even if they're not all 5-star reviews, if you have some 4, some three, it's just saying that it's a legit business and not, a scam. So obviously the more reviews you can get and the more high end reviews, the better.
Right.
A lot of advisors will tell me, well, my compliance still isn't really on board with us getting reviews or asking for them. I get that it's still kind of the Wild West, But look at it from the consumer's perspective. Before, it used to be no financial advisor had a review. So if you didn't have
Right.
one, it really wasn't that big of a deal. But now they see hundreds, thousands of other advisors who have them. So if you don't, it leaves a question mark in their mind. So it's definitely a big part of local SEO and something I really urge people to have a strategy for.
Yeah, great points as always. Now, you had put up a post on LinkedIn, a great LinkedIn post sharing how you think of time away with your kids as a trip, not a vacation, and using it as an example to highlight, nuances in language, which I think is very important. What resources can people turn to when they want to work on improving their use of words, either when speaking or writing for that matter?
Yeah, it's such a good question. And I did bring that up as just a way we all have been there. We've all taken a trip with kids and come back and said, "Oh, I need a vacation from my vacation." And that's because it really, I think the mindset of this is going to be a trip is very different. It's like I see a lot of financial advisors on their websites, they'll use the word process. You're going to go through our process rather than maybe an experience. And a process sounds like a factory, right? Whereas an experience sounds like something we're looking forward to. You don't usually hear people talk about experience in a negative way. You'll say that was a great experience or we're so excited for this experience. Whereas process sounds more medical in a way.
Right.
So, same thing with solutions versus services. A solution solves a problem, and a service is just, again, something you go through. So, the Bank of New York, Mellon Pershing, actually, a few years ago, put out it was called Advisor Value Propositions, and it's a PDF you can download. Again, I'll give you the link afterwards for the show notes. But it had a little graph, and they interviewed clients to say which words or phrases would you prefer, or are you more drawn to from these advisors' websites. And so people much preferred the word comprehensive versus holistic. They felt like holistic was medicinal. They preferred solutions over services. They preferred experience over process. So that's a great resource to look at and think about
Interesting.
how it can align with your website. Also, just think about when you're talking with your clients or your prospects, how are they saying it? Maybe they're saying, "So what's it going to look like to work with you?" On your
Mhm.
website, you could say, work with us is one of the navigation buttons instead of our process, right? Or you have an FAQ page and you take all the questions people ask in their words and you put it on there. So there's other ways you can think about it, but those would be some good starting points.
Yeah, great points. And I guess, a lot of these things that, you speak to advisors, but really any service-based professionals or organizations can find these similar terminologies, whatever works in their profession, and then start incorporating those in as well, right?
Yeah, and I think the key here is the less jargon, the better. Even and I make the mistake sometimes, right? I'll be saying SEO, SEO, and people are like, "What's SEO?" Okay, it's how do I show up higher on Google? And I
Right.
think most people know it, but again, you just don't want to assume. And the more we simplify language, the better our message will be received. Because it's not that people aren't smart and can't figure it out. It's that in our 24 hours a day, we are so inundated with messages that we tune out the things that we don't think are relevant to us. So if it takes just even an extra millisecond to determine if it's relevant to us, we don't pay attention. There's another great tool. It's called the Flesh Kincaid Readability Score. You can take anything you write and copy and paste it into a Google Doc, and then under Tools, choose the Flesh Kincaid score, and it'll tell you at what level is your writing. You want it to be about a seventh grade level. That's what magazines and newspapers are written at. But most advisors' websites and email marketing is a high school level. So again, it's not that we're dumbing it down, it's we're choosing words that are just easier to understand.
Imagine a relationship where financial conversations don't feel stressful, but actually bring you joy. We've designed a guide to help you have positive, meaningful money conversations with your partner. This isn't just another budgeting tool, it's a roadmap for building trust and connection. So if you're ready to start a joyful money journey with your partner, go to mitlin.us/couplesjoy and download your free guide. Transform your financial future together starting today. Yeah, more well received by more people,
Exactly.
right? Yeah. Now speaking about social, we've talked a lot about social here today, and just about a couple of years ago, you shared that your husband, who you mentioned, your late husband Ryan, was diagnosed with a rare form of brain cancer, and you asked for help connecting with experts in the space at that time. What did that experience teach you?
It taught me that people are really inherently good and want to help. I mean, that post went so unbelievably viral. I think 12 million people saw it. I had people all over the world saying, I have a friend who knows a friend. Let me put you in touch with this person. And it just tugged at people's heartstrings. I think seeing the picture of our three little kids, our youngest was just 3 months old at the time my husband was diagnosed with brain cancer. And we knew it was terminal, and there wasn't a lot of there still aren't, any good treatments really available.
Right.
And I think it also, though, just showed me the power of, these connections we build online are just as strong and powerful sometimes as the ones that we have offline now. Our world is, there is not as much of a delineation between online and offline. And so as you're thinking about growing your business, a lot of people are neglecting these online communities because they don't see the value in them as much. So they're not spending time logging on to wherever it is they're trying to build an audience, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and spending time just shooting someone a message and saying, how are you? Or commenting on a post saying, that was really insightful and here's why. Yet if they were trying to grow their business 10 years ago in their local town, they would know they can't just hole up in their office and not talk to anyone, right? And
Right.
so there's still a gap between people understanding the power of these online conversations and engagement on social media. And I tell people all the time, for every one thing you post, you should be leaving comments on at least 5 other people's posts. And I've been upping that number even closer to 10 lately, because really it's all about those interactions. And I learned that firsthand. I mean, people just came to our rescue in every way imaginable. And it was so incredibly moving to see.
Yeah, I guess you want to have some level of reciprocity, right? If people are going to take time out of their day to say something nice or be helpful on your post, whatever that is, you want to be able to reciprocate and do the same for somebody else as well.
Yeah. And I mean, psychologists have studied this extensively. We get a dopamine hit when we get that little notification that someone has liked or commented on our post. And so if you, Larry, every time I post, I see Larry said this or Larry loved that, I start to associate you with those good feelings, with that dopamine hit. And you, especially if you're not saying, hey, buy my service, sign up to work with my business, you're just being nice and being
Yeah.
kind, then it's like, oh, wow, and you think even more highly of the person. So I'm not saying to do it for, to be fake by any means, but just by nature of doing it, it's not a waste of time. I think some people still look at it as a waste of time. It is really one of the best ways that you can grow brand awareness and build those relationships for your business.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to talk about one more thing around Ryan, and that was the legacy he left by finalizing and putting out and publishing his best-selling children's book, My Annoying, Irritating, Always in the Way Shadow, which is shown right
Love
here.
it.
Uh, you know, and it sits here in the lobby at Mitlin. I put it here for today because we knew we were having you on, and I wanted to honor him. Could you share with our listeners, what was Ryan's, why behind writing it, and what was his mission behind it?
Yeah, so it was an idea he'd had about writing a book from the perspective of a little girl. And then at the end of the book, you get to the end and you flip it around and you read it from her shadow's point of view. And he and I would always talk about one of the things we wanted to teach our children. We're big travelers, big on getting books out of the library that expose them to different ways of thinking, is that really everything in life comes down to not what happens to you, but how you choose to perceive it and react to it. And he really thought it could be a cool way to create a children's book that would teach that lesson. And so once he got his terminal cancer diagnosis, he committed himself to getting it done. And his goal was to get it published before he passed. And so he would take his computer and while he was getting his radiation or his different treatments at the hospital, he'd be working on this. And it was so incredibly moving to see that, so many people would be so depressed or giving up or feeling like, okay, my life, is coming to an end. How do I want to spend my time? And he really wanted to create this legacy and have something tangible our children could hold in their hands as this lasting message. And we were blown away. I mean, over 15,000 copies have been sold. It was on the number one children's book on Amazon for multiple weeks in a row, and children's books overall. And again, talking about community, so many people in the financial advisory space have purchased the book, and tried to support our family. And it just really, again, speaks to that power of community and people wanting to be there for each other, but also his message, I think, will always stand the test of time, which is, again, that it really is all about perception and how you choose to view things in your life, and that we do have a choice when it comes to what happens to us. Do we want to look at the bright side and see the glass as half full and understand that everybody's coming from different places? Or do we just want to choose to, be the victim? And that gives you a lot of power as a person when you realize that.
Yeah, what a great legacy, and I mean the story is great, and the lessons are even better, and what a great way to kind of leave that advice and guidance for the kids, even long after he's gone. I'm sure that'll be heeded by them and future grandchildren as well. It's
Thank
a
you.
hell of a story and great life lesson. So one of the other things that we talked about talking about life lessons, and we had a conversation at Shift last year, and unfortunately it's not happening. We're not going to
I
see it
know.
Shift 2025 because it's not happening. But we talked about educating children about the lives of others around the world. And I was really taken back about how impactful you felt this was, right? And why you felt it was so important to guide young minds to have a broader view beyond their neighborhood, which kind of taps into that social piece and kind of how people stepped up and wanted to help with Ryan and whatnot. Can you share that with us? Why you feel so passionate about that, and why you feel it's so helpful for kids to understand that and experience that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in life, things that fear is an underlying emotion that causes people to get angry. Like if you look at, like, why does someone get really angry? A lot of times it's from fear. Why do people get so upset that they, make really rash, terrible choices that impact the people around them? It's really coming from a place of fear, and fear often comes from the unknown, fear of the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen, or we don't know how different someone is from us, or we don't understand them or their culture. So I think the more we can understand and meet people from other cultures, meet people who do things different than us, meet people who go about life in a different way, but realize that we almost always with other human beings have more in common than we are, not alike, right? The similarities usually almost always outweigh the differences if you were to
Sure.
add them all up. And once you get that, it just changes your viewpoint. Like people can do things in all different ways, approach the world in different ways. There's not one right or wrong way to do things. I want my kids to know that. But at our core, we're all human beings who have, we want to be loved, we want to have purpose. And it just changes your viewpoint when you go out in the world and the world gets a little bit smaller. Like you see that there's all these differences, but you realize the similarities we have. And I just think it makes you a better human being. And I'm really trying to get my kids to be travelers, not tourists, right? I don't want to just
Yeah.
go and see a spot and check it off a list. I want them to meet the locals and see a local way of doing things and learn a new way of looking at things, but then ultimately realize, well, hey, we have more alike than different. And so it's a really big part of the way that I parent. And I actually just started an Instagram channel, Jolly Good Travel, to document it. And it's been fun because Instagram is not a channel I've used for work in the past. And I help so many advisors with social media. So we've been having fun growing it over there. But yeah, it's
Interesting.
definitely a core part of just how I think. It just I think it makes the world a better place when you get out there and you meet more people from other walks of life.
I agree. Has there been some place that you've gone thus far in your journeys that has been really impactful to you and the kids?
When we were in Italy. We were in like this tiny little town where barely anyone spoke English, like up in the hills called Tremezzo. And the people like who worked with the tourists down near Bellagio and all those places would, but not where we were staying. And it was just funny, like the slower pace of life, and also that they like it didn't matter. Like I feel like in the US, if someone's rushing, who's ever serving them will be like, okay, I need to rush because they're rushing. They were just like kind of like, it's okay, whatever it is can wait. And I also, it was such an eye opener because I feel like as Americans, wherever we go, we expect people will speak English because it is so, it is spoken
Right.
everywhere. And there really wasn't a lot of people speaking English. And that was really humbling to just walk in and have that mindset of like, I should not be going to another country just expecting they're going to speak my language. We should, and I didn't, but at the same time, I've gone so many places and been able to get along that Italy is not a place I thought like I'm going to run into this pocket of people that nobody's speaking English. So my kids, it was really interesting for them. They wanted to like pick up the words really quick so that they could communicate. Like, let's learn this language so that
Right.
we can, communicate better. So that was definitely, it was just an amazing experience. And one that I think, again, makes us better travelers.
Sounds it. Sounds it. So I know one thing that's really important to you, especially because of the life circumstances, is gratitude. And, that's like rooted to some degree in the heart of the book also. As parents, how do you think that we start helping children incorporate gratitude into their lives? Because I like you, I feel like it's very important. Most of our kids are in a much better position than maybe we were, or
Yeah.
maybe two generations ago. They don't necessarily realize it, but they have a lot to be grateful for. So how do we get them to acknowledge that and be more grateful as parents?
One thing I say to my kids so much that it's probably nauseating for them is I always saying, stop focusing on what you don't have and focus on what you do have. And I'm hoping that will be like a drumbeat for them. And I also, tell them all of the time, like playing with your friends is a privilege. Coming home from school and getting a warm, yummy meal is a privilege. Getting to watch TV shows at night before, like they each get to pick a show at night before bed, that's their screen time for the day, is a privilege. And so if they don't, feel like if like during the day they kind of are whiny about a responsibility or a chore they have or something, I'll remind them of these other privileges they have and that the responsibilities is how you earn a privilege. And then we do go around the table at night and we say like our rose and our thorn of our day, but then also one thing that we're grateful for. And I've been trying to teach them to be like not my family or my health, but like super specific, like
Right.
thankful I have strong legs so I could run fast on the playground today. So those are the things we're doing. I mean, I don't know. I think I'm open to hear what other people are doing because it's definitely something I just think that it takes consistency to reinforce.
Yeah, I agree. For those who don't know about rose and thorn, could you just explain that for a
Oh,
minute?
sorry. Yes. So the rose and the thorn is the rose is the best part of your day. The thorn is the least, good part of your day. And then you could also do the bud, which is something that I guess I've heard people do it different ways. The bud is like something you're looking forward to, something that's coming. We choose to do a gratitude instead.
Right. Yeah, a great way to get your kids talking, because if you ask them how their day was, the answer is going to be fine. It was fine,
Right.
right? Right. It's always fine, but this has a little bit more thought provoking. They have to put a little thought into it and come up with something tangible that, not only was there good, but there was probably some bad in the day also, and there's always something you're grateful for.
Yeah,
So
and I
I
like that
think
when
it's
you talk
great
about
lessons.
the bad too, it gives permission to kind of together as a family brainstorm, like how could we have handled that situation better, or what could we do different next time, or just commiserate. Yeah, that really was a bad situation.
No way around it.
No way around it.
and those and that happens, right?
Right.
So well, Samantha, it's been a pleasure having you on and sharing your thoughts with us. And, we end each of our shows by asking our guests the same final question, because we are the Mitlin Money Mindset and we are inherently all about joy. And that is, what did you do today that brought you joy and put you in the right mindset for success?
Oh, that's such a good question. Well, I started my day off as I love to do, playing with he just turned 3, Teddy. And so after my kids get picked up on the bus for school, it's so early. We have like an hour before I usually start getting ready for work, and him and I just play. And that one-on-one time just puts everything in perspective. He's really into Transformers right now. They're making a comeback, if you
Okay.
didn't know, with 3-year-old rescue bots. And then I have this great journal called the 5 Minute Journal. It's put on by people in the Stoic community, Ryan Holiday. And every morning it gives you a little quote and it asks you for 3 things you're grateful for and what would make today a good day. And my thing for today is to go for a run outside because it finally is out of the teens and 20s. So I'm going to be doing that soon.
All right, that sounds like a great start to the day. It sounds like you're planning on continuing it well as well, and enjoy that alone time
Yes,
with Teddy because it goes by so
I
quick. I
know.
can't believe my kids are the ages they are. So
We'll be
you're
playing
seeing
hockey
it.
in no time, right?
Yeah. You got that right. So listen, we're going to have all the information in the show notes that we talked about and your information. But if people want to learn more about you, learn more about FMG, what's the easiest and the best place for them to go to do that?
Yeah, 2 places. fmgsuite.com is our company website and our blog and all of our awesome content and resources if you're an advisor looking to market better. And if you want to connect with me individually, if you have any follow-up questions, I am Samantha C. Russell on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Samantha. It's been a pleasure and enjoy the day.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank Samantha Russell for being a guest on the Mitlin Money Mindset. Samantha is an expert in digital marketing for financial advisors, and many of her concepts can be applied to any business. Her expertise and depth of knowledge is second to none. Her concepts, if implemented, can be transformational to your business. Samantha is an inspiration both personally and professionally to all that know her. Samantha Russell and FMG can be found across most social media platforms. All the contact information needed to find them can be found in the show notes.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Mitlin Money Mindset. Remember, it's not just about the money, it's finding joy in the journey and embracing the right mindset. If you love the show, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Don't forget to follow along for more tips and inspiration. Please visit the social links below to connect with Larry or his guests. Until next time, keep smiling, keep thriving, and remember to think about, what did you do today that brought you joy?
The opinions voiced in the Mitlin Money Mindset Show with Lawrence Sprung are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. No strategy ensures success or protects against loss. To determine what may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial or tax advisor prior to investing. Investment advisory services offered through CWM LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Guests on the Mitlin Money Mindset Show are not affiliated with CWM LLC.